Welcome to the Build Better Blueprint, the podcast where we discuss the foundations of real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Join Christian Cardamone as he shares insights, strategies, and stories that will empower you to level up your business, your lifestyle, and your impact. Let's build a better blueprint for success, starting now.
Hey, this is Christian Cardamone. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Build Better Blueprint. Today, I've got a real treat for you. Miss Manda Price is going to be our guest. We're going to talk to you about all things real estate and entrepreneurship. Going to tell you a little bit about her. We're going to jump into a great conversation with one of the hardest working people in the business. Manda Price is a team leader and CEO here at Keller Williams Innovate in Wilmington, North Carolina. Began her career in Champaign, Illinois in 2004 with RE/MAX, and then launched her sales career when she was a rookie, doing 36 units in year one and 72 by year three. Then she moved her business to KW in 2008. What Manda is most proud of was the launch of the KW Annual Cash Bash and Gala, an annual charity event. Manda and the team spearheaded an event which to date has raised over $1.1 million for the Wounded Veterans Center in higher education and the University of Illinois, soon to break the 1 million mark. There's so much to dig into. I just want to get started here because Manda is just a boss in our market center. I'm very proud to know her, to see her. She's a great leader, and I just want to thank you for being here today, Manda.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I really appreciate I'm honored and I love the opportunity, and I just love you. You are somebody who is so respected in our community, and thank you for having me.
I want to introduce you to our audience, and I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you started in Champaign and came to Wilmington and have done just great things here, really made a big mark quickly, I think. So tell us where you started, what led you to your current path, and as Jason Abrams says, what got you into the greatest industry in the world?
Yeah, so it wasn't a straight path. I graduated college and at Parkland College. It was a junior college with a degree in early childhood. And at the age of 19, I bought my first commercial building, and I had negotiated it by contract of the owner. And the owner financed it for me. I did a big remodel, and I launched a preschool. I had 46 children, 7 teachers, a full-time chef, and little did I know I was out there doing mergers and acquisitions and closing schools and bringing people in. So much so that the director or DCFS has to approve the school. And they looked at me and they said, well, who's going to be your director? And I said, me, of course. And they said, well, you have to be 21. So I pointed to the next person and said, well, it'll be them on paper. And I was running the business by the age of 20. And so loved what I was doing. It wasn't, the kids were great, but it was about owning a business. And what I realized was that your income was in direct proportion to the square footage of your building, because DCFS required a number of square feet per child. And I needed to expand the building. And there was a vacant lot next to me. And I went door knocking to the owner and asked if they'd consider selling the vacant lot. Lo and behold, it was a real estate company, and they shared that they had plans for expansion and they weren't interested in sales. But that led me to a little bit of curiosity around what's this real estate? What does that mean? And what I discovered quickly was there was no financial ceiling. And in 2004, got my real estate license. I kept the building. I leased it out to a new owner, and they ran the preschool for a few years until somebody made an offer on that commercial building. And today I still wish I owned it. But I kept the building for a few years, got into real estate at RE/MAX 2004. My first year, sold 36 houses. By year 3, I had sold 72 homes, and Keller Williams came calling. They were new in our market, only 2 years old, and asked if I'd move my career there. And I did. And then that first year, I became the Mid-American Regional Rookie of the Year. And by 2010, I was the CEO of the company. And by the time I got started, we were number 4 in the market. And when I moved to Wilmington, I left them at number 1. And that's the same mission I'm on here today in Wilmington.
I mean, that just makes so much sense. And I know I've known you for years now, but I never knew you started about the same time as I did at the same firms. Wonder if we got ripped in Las Vegas at a RE/MAX convention in 2005 or 2006.
5.
Totally possible. Yep. So, and then you were a commercial landlord, before you could even drink beer, which is even more amazing.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, and then now, but it's just clicking in my mind because you have built such an amazing team here with so many agents, much like your market center when you started with it. Keller Williams was not very big here, not a big presence, kind of loose, had changed hands a couple of times. And then when you got here, you put it on the map. And it's probably because you were used to taking care of kids for so long.
Yeah, that's right. I just went from little kids to big kids.
Yeah, it's we won't spend too much time on that, but I think those of you in the industry might be able to to understand a little bit more. So, well, that's awesome. So every successful person follows some sort of blueprint. I mean, you had KW is known for laying out kind of a roadmap, and that's why I joined as well, because for the first time I could see the playbook of others who were ahead of me. And that's so important. Once you got into that community, what were some of the key steps, the habits or strategies that you employed? Did you get a coach right out of the gate, or did you find a mentor? But tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it first began with the collaboration of the company. And, I think ducks don't really like to fly with eagles. And so I wanted to surround myself with big thinkers, people that were out further than me and farther than me. And I found that with that ecosystem. And so the collaboration first, and then a good mentor of mine gave me a book called The Compound Effect, and I bought into that really early on in my career. And so I understood priorities at a really high level. Later on, I was introduced into the GPS and the 411, or the one that Keller Williams offers us. The One Thing book gets published, later down the road, but the blueprint for me is understanding that not everything matters equally. And we're in an industry where, and I think most entrepreneurs experience this, where there's a tendency of a lot of distractions and a lot of shiny stars. We get asked a lot to say yes to things. And I think we have to get clear that we can say no to good things so we can say yes to really great things. And so having some sort of a filter to run things through, and then knowing what the ideal future for you is. And so just getting really clear on priorities. I manage my calendar at a really high level, and I understand the 80-20 principle at a really high level as well.
It's funny. It's those probably three principles. If you distill success down,
Yeah,
you might see like time management, clarity, and then knowing that, that 80-20 principle with regard to the work that you're doing.
that's right.
Once you can wrap your head around that and implement it, really the sky's the limit. And I applaud you for like kind of unearthing that so early in your career, because that is a testament to where you are today. What was the transition like though from being in production and brokerage to leadership? Because that's a lateral step, but then you can take giant steps from there and you can impact, I think, more people. I
Yeah.
think it was the right choice, but tell me about that.
Well, it's ultimately why I said yes when I was first offered the opportunity to explore the role. It came with a pay cut, and I wasn't sure that that's something that I wanted to do. And as I drilled down to the opportunity and got really clear on what it could do for me, I discovered that part of my value system was that I get fulfillment from seeing other people succeed. And I knew that I could cast a wider net by helping the Christian Cardamones in the world hit their goals. And then when you do, I do. And so it was, how can I help more people faster? And this was the vehicle to do that. Also, in the transition, I had to discover that you have to learn to lead yourself before you can lead others. And so I had to get really good at self leadership, understanding who I was and taking the time to slow down and figure that out so that I can just later speed up.
I think I heard in the car today, it might have been, or yesterday morning, all the days are kind of the same now, but it was a quote, maybe Zig Ziglar or someone who said, like, if you want to get rich, help other people. Maybe it's Warren Buffett. If you want to get rich, help other people get rich. You want to realize your dreams, help other people realize theirs. And that is just, it's nothing more true than that. And you have to be able to think kind of globally to help comprehend that, I think. So you're here, you're in Wilmington now, you're wildly successful, very well known, have a tremendous reputation, which is sometimes the hardest thing to maintain in a fairly gossipy industry and all that stuff. So kudos to you on that. But success like you've had doesn't come without setbacks. So everyone always sees the shiny awards and everything, but tell us about maybe a challenge that you've had since you got here, or something that has given you some, a chink in the armor.
Yeah, I think first of all, I laughed when I got here. I was hit with Florence, and when a hurricane rolls through in real estate, then you have to figure out what real estate is left after that. And then after Florence comes COVID, and after COVID comes social unrest, and after social unrest comes NAR uncoupling things. So when I look for smooth sailing, I do not get it. And so what I've realized is that it's the challenges that have built me. It's the lessons that I've learned in the setbacks, that they're really just setups. And so I have to look for the layers, the linings that are in the layers of these, and going, what is it trying to tell me? And, every Sunday, one of my favorite books is The Road Less Stupid. And every Sunday he does thinking time. And I do this with my 411, and I just look ahead to what's going on in the week and I just ask myself questions. And I've learned this from Gary, that the quality of your life is in direct relationships to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. The bigger the questions, the bigger the life. So when I'm having challenges, it's like, all right, well, what's in it? What's in it for me? What do I need to learn from that? How do we grow? How do we evolve from it? So I can't isolate one specific setback. I just think they were given to me because I'm strong enough to do it. And I have to like lead the way, and I have a responsibility to do that. And so I just think they're setups for me.
That's the best way to look at it. And I wish more people saw that kind of through that lens, because if you have that mindset, then nothing can stop you really. If you just treat everything, and obviously things happen and you might stumble here and there, but if you're always of that mentality that this is just an opportunity, you can recognize it that way and then you can optimize it and take charge and go from it. That's awesome. So
And it's
that
not to
makes
say
sense.
that I don't have a bad moment. It's like I can find myself sliding into it, and I'll ask myself, what would an accountable person do? And I will ask, what's my DNA on this? What do I need to do differently? What do I need to learn from it? So I do think that we can't control our first thought, but we can control our second. So it's not that I'm innocent from being a victim at times, but I don't want to live there. I don't want to stay in that place.
Yeah, well, because you're right, we can't control what happens either, but we can control how we respond to it.
That's
And
right.
that's really where the discipline comes in. Obviously, you're so well versed. Clearly, you read a lot. You've mentioned the compounding effect and the road less stupid, some great resources there. Tell me about your perspective on like coaching and stuff like that, because obviously you have to continue to surround yourself with people who are further ahead of you and pushing you and holding you accountable. Tell me about what that's like and how important it has been to your success, where you might be without it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've had a coach for 15 years, and I talk to the coach every week for 30 minutes. And I value it greatly because the coach, number one, I think we have tendencies to sort of get in our bubble, and the coach is talking to 60 other team leaders across the country, and they're hearing and seeing things that might not be hearing and seeing. And so it just cuts through the minutia and goes, here's what's coming down the line. On the coast, we're experiencing a very different market in Wilmington than somebody might be experiencing in Florida, New York, or the Midwest. And she's talking to team leaders in those areas. And so I can learn from it. So number one, it speeds things up for me. Number two, it's the accountability. Number three, it just helps me think differently. And, we talk about this. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so I want to be questioning everything. What am I not seeing? And that coach can give that to me, because I know I'm having the same pattern of thoughts all the time, and they're going to help break that down. One of the reasons I'm passionate about where I'm in business is that it is a coaching and consulting company, and I'm incredibly learning based. And I said to my previous owner and broker, like, I don't want to leave. If you can help me, I'm going to stay. They made promises to do that, and they didn't. Their infrastructure wasn't built for it. It wasn't their fault. And so making the move to Keller Williams, it was an infrastructure that I could just thrive in.
Yeah. So while you were talking, I'm just curious what your response to this is. Do you see yourself as a visionary or as an integrator? Because I'm interested to see your thoughts on that.
Definitely more integrator. So I think that's why alignment matters for me of who I'm in business with. I can see big picture, but I like to build the stairs to get us from the clouds to the floor. So I know how to get it to happen. And what it makes Lad and I really great partners. He can see way out, but he can't explain it to the rest of the team. I can interpret it to the team, and then we deliver the end product.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great relationship. It's perfect because you're capable of comprehending the visionary's mission and then translating it into something tangible. So that's cool. And I heard another quote yesterday on a different coaching call where they said, unless it's regarding physics, everything in the world is just a suggestion.
That's right.
Which is really cool when you think about that. It's just because that's the way things have been done, the way things normally operate. It's really just a suggestion. So
That's cool. I've never heard that.
mhm. So when this is a question that I think a lot of folks locally that are listening are going to want to know the answer to. Um, when are you doing all this introspection? You're so busy working all the time. You're always traveling. Tell us about like your daily habits, your non-negotiables that you hold yourself to as far as self-reflection, goal setting, planning, and then obviously you show up to work and just crush. So tell us about like the day in the life of Manda.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I'm very proud of is that I live in three boxes. It's the work, it's the learn, and it's the play. And so I don't I work hard when I'm on, and then when I'm off, I'm off. And then when I'm learning, I'm learning. So my non-negotiables are I'm constantly listening to something and constantly learning. I always have a podcast on or an audible on. I don't waste white space on fluff. So I'm always listening, always learning. I'm always checking in with our people, looking to constantly find the wins and celebrate wins with our leadership team. I don't believe we can pour from an empty cup. And so if we're not refilling our battery and refueling our battery, then we can't help more people. I do run at a high gear. I do. I have a lot of energy. I feel like I'm in a sprint in my life. I don't know how far this will go. It might slow down at some point, but I don't see a finish line. And so I'm constantly going, okay, what's the next mile marker on the journey that I want to accomplish? And that motivates me. And so I don't ever feel unfinished. And I think that's what keeps me going every day. So I wake up just like you. I look for something to listen to. I read. I love walking my dogs outside. That's my meditation. So I get with nature. It gives me energy to do that. I'll end my day in the same way. I don't find that I waste a lot of time. I mean, we do watch some nonsense on Netflix, and that's our wind down, but I don't waste a lot of time on social media or on movies or anything like that because I don't feel productive when I'm doing it. But I do
Yeah.
have mindless stuff that I do, and I sit at the beach and I'll read, and that's rewarding to me. So I think everybody just has to find what gives them energy and constantly be refueling.
hmm That's really cool. That's a good way to look at it. It's, the goal, most people's goal is to make a lot of money and then go sit on the beach and get away from work. But I think that just tells me like you haven't found the work that you were here to do in the reality of what you were meant to do, because then you want to keep working. You want to keep producing. If you're in the right line, if you're in alignment with what you were put here to do,
Yep.
it's cool that though that I know you live at the beach and you spend a lot of time there, and that's a great way to fill your cup, right?
It is. It is. And it was part of the reason I went out here. If I'm like, if I'm going to work so hard, then let's do it where I can just walk down the road and land on the beach. But, you know, I wouldn't say I'm operating a whole lot differently than home. I just had to get on an airplane to do it. And so it's like constantly trying to work, play, learn, work, play, learn. And I think that my parents were raised that you learned at school, you got a job. After the job, you retired and played. And I lost my grandfather only a couple years after he retired. My dad almost is refusing to retire because I think he's scared it's going to happen to him. I don't want to do it in that order. I want to every day live in all three boxes.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, because you never know. I mean, tomorrow's not a
That's right.
promise anyway, and so it's
Yep.
it's better just to do and figure out as you go versus sit and plan, and sometimes
Never get
yeah,
it.
you never
Yep.
get the opportunity to. Or by the time you do, if you work and you retire, you want to go sail around the Caribbean. You're hobbling around the sailboat because you threw out your back because you're too old and crusty to get anything done. So
That's right. No,
that's
do
funny.
it. Do it now.
Yeah. Well, tell us like about your current business right now, what you're working on, and where you are headed in the next couple of years, 3 to 5, with KW and also with Manda.
Yeah. I always get asked what's next, and I don't feel like I'm finished where I am, so I don't know. But what leading multiple real estate offices, I mean, we're covering the coast. And so my big purpose right now is I want to engineer an ecosystem of top producers that will help level each other up. And so I'm having conversations with people like you who are already with us, and then people that are not yet with this that need this. I don't think everybody knows the difference when you can surround yourself with like-minded people. It's the law of the lid, John Maxwell. And so I want to lift the lid on our office. And so I'm on a mission to just keep adding more of that. Who's with us right now, not yet doing 10 million, that wants to do 10 million? Let me get you there. And then who's not yet with us doing 10 million, come on board, because I just want to level up the playing field in our industry. As a business, we're really focusing on simplifying. We looked up and realized we had created a lot of complexity, and complexity kills. And so we're really evaluating not adding anything new, but what do we need to delete that we're doing? I think there was the law of the diminishing return. We were spreading ourselves too thin then by saying yes to opportunities. And we're going back to the core of who Keller Williams is and who we are as a company. And it's a training and consulting company. Our anthem for this year was do less better. And so just nail doing less. And then, we're not saying yes to too many things, which I don't have a hard time doing, but I get into business with some people who do. So then in the next 3 to 5 years, I think it's expanding beyond real estate. It's how can we bring this into a leadership? How can we bring it into our community? What's the impact we can make philanthropically that is going to help other people that aren't yet in our industry too?
Okay, awesome. So you've got some definitely some big goals and dreams. And does that involve, you think, staying in this market for a while, and you feel like this is your home?
I do. This feels like home. I think this was the second chapter, and I think you can have roots and wings, but value what I learned being in Illinois. But this was next for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really cool. So you mentioned a couple books, and I think we both have definitely a love for reading and or listening.
Yep.
Tell me what podcast you're listening to, what some other books that you're reading, and who you're kind of following, for inspiration and strategy, aside from kind of the ones that we would all think with KW.
Yep. Outside of Keller Williams, I love Craig Groeschel. He does a leadership podcast that's really powerful. Of course, Ed Milet, I'm a big fan. Mel Robbins, I'm a big fan. Right now, I'm reading Nick Saban's leadership lessons. It is really good. Any sports book, I can just find the parallels to business, and I can relate to that as I was an athlete in school, and I find so many parallels in business to sports. So that's been a really, really good read about the way that he thought and the way that he ran the colleges that he was a part of. The podcast I mentioned, books I mentioned, I think that The Road Less Stupid is probably my most recommended book outside of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I just think that is a book. It has over 600 questions, I think, in Road Less Stupid. So every chapter ends with that. And I'm just obsessed with asking those questions. And then masterminds. I love doing masterminds with people who are further ahead than me. I think iron sharpens iron. So who can I be in a room with? Who can make me better? And then I like benchmarking. So if I know a company is doing more than we are currently, what are they doing? And I like learning from my peers in that way too.
Okay, that's great. And how are you finding those types of resources? Because there's so much noise out there. It's like overwhelming. Every time you can pop open Instagram and it might make suggestions based on what you've been looking at or talking about. And it's like, dude, who's real, who's not? I mean, how do you vet these folks, these masterminds? There's a lot of opportunists out there, but there's also, when you find your tribe, there's nothing more valuable.
Yeah, we're lucky where we are. We're an open book company, and so I can pull up the reports from all of the states across the company and look at city by city, every single office, and go, is this true? Are they valid? Is this somebody that I want to listen to? So I can identify somebody with a track record of success pretty quick and decide it's somebody I want to listen to.
Okay, awesome. So back to the coaching for a second. You said you've had a coach for 15 years. Has that been through, does MAPS have like a leadership arm, or do they have some KW?
Yeah, leadership coach through MAPS. And I've had a total of 5 coaches. So I don't keep the coach forever. So I like changing it up. And, I think it's good for me, good for them. There's times that I'm like, am I coachable or not? But when I find the coach that it works, then it clicks and I stay with them probably about 3 years or so.
Do you have that conversation going into it that like, hey, the goal here is to just be here for 2 to 3 years and then possibly step on? Because I've had one MAPS coach and the guy was amazing, love him, and got so much out of that experience. Felt like at a certain point, maybe we were having the same conversations every week and it turned into more of just accountability, which was great, but that I was looking for. And maybe that would have been a time to get a different coach. I kind of pivoted programs, but tell me about that.
Yeah. So I think the good ones they know that we're hitting a ceiling together. And so, for the next breakthrough to happen, I need to make a change. We teach a principle at KW called E to P. And so, entrepreneurial to purposeful, the way to break through is through people, systems, technology, models, or a coach. And so when I feel myself hitting a ceiling with that coach, then I need a new coach to go to that next level. So I just find that that's about every 3 to 5 years for me.
Good. Well, that means you're growing. That's the name of the game. If you weren't, then that's kind of a evidence of stagnation, I think, which if you're at a high level, sometimes that's good for people, but those who want to continue to push, that
Yeah.
recognize that.
That's right. And we're coaching with a guy by the name of Jordan Freed, who I absolutely love and adore. And one thing that Jordan's doing that I think is powerful is he's putting cohorts of people together all over the country that are like minded, and he's challenging them and he's bringing them together, in a Zoom, but then he gets them together in person. And so, I know you're doing something just like this, but I think there's some power in group coaching equally to be in the one-on-one coaching space. And so I think it's both, but Tiger Woods had what, 6 coaches. So it's like I don't know. I don't ever think that I'm done,
Yeah. What's
Or
your,
that-
well, that's good. That's the right attitude too, because you don't want to be the smartest person in the room if you're in the wrong room. So you've been in coaching a lot longer than I have. I'd ask you this. Is that a new kind of trend or something because a lot of these groups or these folks that are leaders, that are coaches, then they do build up such an audience. And now with technology, if they create a community, then that's a whole nother way. But then the folks that are in these communities, they start interacting. And that's so powerful too, because that's where a lot of the magic is really happening,
yeah.
just because everyone's kind of in alignment,
That's right. I believe, yes. I think with AI, you have reasoning models, you have analytical models, and in some way, it's a coach. And so I can ask questions of that, cause me to think differently, enter the right prompts, and then, it can coach me, but it can't create community. And so I think getting elbow to elbow and having experiences is what's going to really solidify a person's growth. And so I do think that that is going to be the framework of a successful future for coaching.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you 100%. And I think the more that AI becomes in the forefront of just about every industry, there's going to be more value and desire for like human connection, because we've got these powerful tools and they're helping everyone advance. But then we're still going to want to spend time together and build personal relationships so you can kind of enjoy the ride
That's right.
and see what other people are doing. So, on the topic of AI, what kind of tools are you using or implementing, and how's that affected your role since it's kind of been rolled out?
Use it multiple times a day. I'm probably not using it to its potential in the space of video. I have some learning to do there. But then again, in my role, I don't need a lot of video, but I'm absolutely using it I will prompt it for things, cleaning up emails, writing social posts. I don't sell real estate, but if I were, I would be having it, make edits to my captions for listing descriptions and such. But I think there's no end in sight for it. In the speed at which it moves, I feel like I'm a pretty creative person, but when I put it into Chat GPT and I say, make it better, it makes it better. And so it's like, why would I not do it? And it's not limiting my creative thinking because I still have to get the prompt right. So I don't feel like I'm taking a shortcut and, slowly diminishing my brain power by any means either. So I love it. I'm a huge fan, and I'm constantly coming up with ideas from it by popping it in.
Yeah, it's a great tool. And I think you have to just, my opinion, you have to embrace it, whether you like it or not. Yes, it's terrifying, but it's here to stay. And I look at it like you said, it's kind of just a tool. It'll help. Maybe you have to prompt it, so it requires some interaction on the front end, but then it'll generate something. But then you get to use your creative mind to then manipulate that, put your spin on it, and make it your own. So it's really the folks that are just using it blindly with whatever comes out. It's been around long enough now where you can see that and that and identify it. And so there's always someone who's paying attention and trying to optimize those tools, and they're just going to be farther ahead faster, I think.
Yeah, I do. And I think too, like just the processes of it. So I will put in something and I'll say, build process for this, the SOPs that it can spit out. When I say, here's the outcome I desire, and, it'll help put that in there. So I still get to be strategic, but I want to shortcut the point between A to Z. And that's what that's going to do for me. So I think you're either going to be disrupted by it or you're going to enhance it. So, but I don't think you'll be replaced unless you don't adopt it. If you adopt it, I think you're fine. And it'll just be an agent enhanced tool.
Yeah, totally. And there's a million tools out there already that have enhanced people's careers significantly. So this is just one other one in the quiver, and it just happens to be a really good one.
Yeah, we were with the ex-CEO of a brokerage back last week in Charlotte, and he said, it's in real estate specifically, it's going to change search forever. I mean, most consumers are going to go to Chat GPT, tell it exactly what it wants. It's going to drill down to the neighborhood that they need to look in, and then they're going to call you up and say, hey, I want to go look at homes in this neighborhood. So they're still going to use the realtor, but it's going to forever change the way that we search in real estate moving forward, probably. So I think it's a consumer benefit and the agent benefit to it.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, I'm arms wide open. It's like a chore to keep up with everything that's out there, honestly, and then to learn it. But it's exciting too because once you learn some sort of tool that it can offer you, some sort of bot or agent, it's like, oh my god, this is like
Yeah.
you can
And I
see
even
how.
do personal stuff, man. Like I take a picture of a recipe, I load the PDF in, tell them to give me the ingredients, to put it in a shopping list. I have it create meal plans. I've had here's the ingredients in my fridge, spit out a recipe for me. So it's not just business for me. It's written workout plans, meal plans, a variety of things. So it's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I have to ask, and I'm curious as to your opinion, with KW that was recently, we heard it brought on some private equity, and is that something that's being talked about, or is that just like business as usual? We just now have, a bigger war chest to continue to maintain our independence with and grow. I know you said we're a technology company, coaching, consulting. That's why I'm kind of a part of this team because that doesn't limit us to just selling houses to people. I
Right.
love that like open-endedness of it, but is there optimism amongst the ranks with this?
There is, in fact, the CEO that came in, he came in from Swanepoel and he was an ex CEO of a different franchise. And he said, hey, if my opinion is Gary Keller did you a favor by not going public. Wall Street really doesn't favor real estate brokerages. The margins just aren't there for the Wall Street. And so what it does favor though is data and technology. And so I think Gary did the right thing. He evaluated everything for 2.5 years. He brought in Carl Liebert to decide, should we go? Put the attorneys in place, did all the evaluations, and the end consensus was don't. But we did need a war chest. We've had the industry has had some massive lawsuits that have come at a price. And Gary's like, it would be irresponsible of me to say no to the opportunity because I have to think of the future of Keller Williams. So when, you get that sort of a capital, what's it going to do to our technology? What are the advantages that it's going to give our real estate agents because we have access to that, but we stayed private. And I also think that Gary's never really had anybody to report up to.
Mhm.
Now having somebody outside of our box who has lived in that private equity world, now he has that consultant. And so he can bounce things off. But it is business as usual. Gary's still going to get up, come to work every day, run Keller Williams in the same capacity that he was the day before the sale. But now we've just added a tool to the toolbox, and I think we're going to get to go faster at
Yeah.
where it is that they want to take us.
That's cool. That's exciting. And that's when I saw that, I figured, I mean, I feel like the writing has been on the wall for a while. It was going to be either public or private equity. You can only get so big until you need a farther reach and more resources. And
That's right.
even though KW has such incredible infrastructure to make the impact that I know this company's capable of, they need this. And so I think it's cool because I think he's still like so important to this company that if he were to step down now or get pushed out or something like that, the private equity wouldn't have made that investment. So I feel like he'll be here for a while because he's a great leader and the proof is in the pudding with him.
That's
But
right.
it's easier to be beholden to a board than it is to the public,
That's right.
So I think it was a good decision.
And I think he kept the agents at the center of the decision. I know of other brokerages that are public that the decisions are being made on behalf of the stockholders. And now I think that agents are going to be at the center of every decision that gets made. And so I value that decision by Gary and I'm excited about the future. I know too that they're going to look into how do we get access to that opportunity. And so they're not done. Chris, who's the CEO from Stone Point, he's going to get to know the company first. They don't have the history of coming in and tearing companies apart and rebuilding them either. They're really good at coming in and leveling companies up. Like that's their track record.
Yeah. Well, and every private equity has a different MO too, and that's awesome. I would assume nothing less that that was the kind of company they chose to align with because some do come in and they just gut and then, try and swell it up and then just dispose of it or roll it up. But some of these companies really want to come in and optimize them, keep them grow. They see what they're capable of, and those are the really astute investors, I think.
100%.
So, well, tell me this: where do you see the biggest opportunities here in the next couple years in this market? I mean, um, attrition in your role is obviously, agents come and go. It's a swinging door. You have managed to keep an incredible team here at KW. But what do you think the future holds for agents And what do you see as opportunity?
I think this market's going to reward the educated. I think it's going to reward those who are consistent, they stay connected, they're authentic, they build trust, really understand who you are, what your value proposition is. I think the risk that we face as in our industry is that the agents that are out there waiting for it to return to normal, there just is no normal. This is the new normal. So they're going to have to be adaptable. And then to get a little granular, I think that the agents who focus on listings are going to win, because if those who own the inventory over time, they're going to continue to take market share. So if I were getting back into business today, I would go all in on listings.
I couldn't agree more, Amanda. That's such a good point. Listings are always going to be the way to have longevity in this industry and also be in control of the thing that people want. So he with the gold makes the rules. That's the golden rule, as I said before. So I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's been great to connect with you. Thanks for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Build Better Blueprint. I'm your host, Christian Cardamone, and that was Manda Price. We'll see you next time.
That's it, folks. That's our show. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to our channel so you are up to date with the latest episodes. Feel free to share with your friends and keep up the great work. You are on the right path. See you at the top.